here. We are back for some more creepypasta slash r slash no sleeps. So I didn't realize I could do this before. I didn't realize that if you wanted to read along with me, you can. I totally forgot about my computer online recording software that I use to record whatever I record on my computer. So I thought it might be better to do it this way. That way you guys can, read along with me as I go, I guess. Or instead of just staring at my face the entire time, you can actually see what I'm reading. So yeah, let's just see how this goes, because I haven't done it this way before. And I'm realizing that I should have with every other fucking creepypasta that I've read. I might do that actually. I might just delete all the old creepypastas and shit and reread them. Because I also realized that some of those are actually really crappy and that either I read too fast or, all that good shit. So, yeah. So, today we're going to be reading I Worked at Disney, Stay Away from the Haunted Mansion. It's not incredibly long, but it's long enough for a good video. So, let's just jump right into it. I guess it's probably best if I start from the very beginning. My name, though not important, is Joey. Last year, I was lucky enough to be able to get into the Disney College program. If you're unfamiliar, that's where you basically get credits from working at Disney World. When I found out I was invited to the program, I was ecstatic. Even though I would leave all my friends, I figured it was for the best. Admittedly, I've been partying a little too often lately and pushing off my schoolwork, so this could have been a good opportunity for me. After a very extensive going away party, I was on a plane flying across the country to my new home. Well, for the next 6 months at least. I was assigned to a bunk room of sorts and given my job. I was to work the Haunted Mansion ride in Magic Kingdom. This was pretty exciting news to me. I've always loved spooky paranormal things. I know this ride was geared towards children, but even still, I got my hours and was ready to start. The first couple of weeks were kind of slow, being as it was my first time doing the program. You don't get to go in the busy summer season. However, it was Disney World, so obviously it was still a fairly busy place. I was getting pretty close with some of my coworkers, Eli, Mika, and Emily especially. We hung out almost every day before and after work. And if we were lucky enough to have the same days off, we would spend them together. Eli and Mika shortly after started dating, leaving Emily and I alone together a lot. Once two people become official, it tends to pry away from friends. One night, the four of us had worked together. Em and I finally got to hang out with us after our shifts. We were going to play some cards and have a few drinks. The shift went by with little to no trouble. A few guests complaining, some of the ghosts at the last dinner party scene was too scary for the kids. We politely had to apologize, and you find yourself saying sorry a lot in this job. They all kept complaining about the lady crying in the bloody dress by the fireplace. That struck me as odd. I've never been on the ride, and I have been on the ride and walked through the ride countless times. Never did I see said woman. I brushed it off. The shift ended with throbbing feet. It's funny, I'm not an athlete by any means, but I was not lazy at all. I would skateboard every day, hike all the time, play sports whenever I had the chance, but my feet would still hurt from walking and moving on the walkway from 8 to 12 hours a day. I showered and went back to my room. My friends were waiting for me. Eli was watching TV. I remember it clear as day. The Bruins were playing at the Avalanche. Him being from Colorado, me being from just outside of Boston. We had some choice words for each other. The girls had their girl talk, and while we kept drinking and yelling at each other, when the game was over, we were all good and drunk. So the cards were never open, and we did what drunk kids do. We talked. It wasn't long before someone brought up the weird complaints made today. I wanted to bring it myself, but Mika did first. Eli, being the only one that worked there longest, suddenly became very serious. "Let's not even get into that. Just forget it," he said. His tone seemed stern. It made no sense because he was so laid back. "What's your problem?" Mika asked him. She also saw the change in his demeanor. "It's just, once you know, you can't go back," he said, looking down, shaking his head. "I still wish I didn't know." Guys, just leave it alone, I suggested, totally planning on making him tell me when we were alone. No, I want to hear, Emily said. Mika agreed. So it looked like Eli was going to crack. There's a legend, I guess you would call it. Have you ever heard the talk of just woods around? He asked us. I mean, I've heard the name, but no specifics, I admitted. The girls agreed. They were a very, very wealthy family that was in the business with Disney World in the early 80s. The daughter's name was Isabel. Isabel Jesselwood, he continued. Emily interjected. Oh, I've heard of that name for sure, she exclaimed. Well, she was to be married, right here in Disney, to a man whose name honestly escapes me. However, the week before, it found out that he was a con artist. He never really loved her. He was already engaged to another woman. In fact, he was just in for the money. Oh God, that's awful. And Mika said, pouring another drink. When she found out, she was destroyed to the point of no return. Their favorite ride in the park was the Haunted Mansion. So towards the end of the night, she put on her wedding dress and got on the ride. After downing 2 bottles of antidepressants and a bottle of Jack, she was dead before the ride even ended, he finished and took a shot of Jameson. Shut the fuck up. You're so full of shit. Yeah, man, I have to admit, you had me there for a second. Babe, I had no idea you were so creative, Mika kissed him. I wish I was joking. You'll see. Now that you know, you'll feel it. You'll hear it. And she knows you know now. After that, we all kind of just moved on. It wasn't it wasn't right away, maybe 2, 3 shifts later, I hear it. A slight cry, like a sob. I was working on the exit of the ride alone, which isn't unusual for a Tuesday night on the off season. I checked the camera to make sure a kid didn't get out of their seat, which was rare but not unheard of. Nothing. Not a single person. There hadn't been a person in the last half hour, at least anyway. I walked along the path to the emergency exit just to make sure the cam wasn't missing anything. The whole time, hearing the cry, again, nothing. Suddenly I felt wrong, like that feeling you get when you know someone is watching you, the weight, the uncomfortable, almost indescribable feeling. I walked embarrassingly a lot faster than I would have to admit back to my post and continued down the seconds counted down the seconds until I could leave. This would happen sporadically, but nothing more than a cry and the feeling. I decided I would ask my friend about it. They too have been hearing it. Emily was the worst. She swore something had been following her. It got to the point to where I would sleep over at her place so she could get some sleep in general. This horrifying event brought her and I closer and closer. She would wake up every morning at 3 a.m. sharp, drenched in sweat, gasping for air. I would calm her down and get her back to bed. This went on for a few months. I started having the same nightmares she was having. I dreamt about the ride and being paralyzed in the seat, not able to move at all. But the ride wasn't the funny cute kids ride. It was the scene of pure horror and violence, a massacre ending with a woman dead in the seat next to me. I was determined to find out what was going on. So one night on a day off, I called Eli. When we were going out to the bar, we sat in a booth and ordered our beers. Jesus, man, you look like shit, he said to me. I haven't been sleeping well, if I'm being honest, dude. The whole Jesswood story has Emily and I pretty shaken up, he frowned. Yeah, Mika too. I wasn't completely truthful with you. He grabbed his beer and took a sip, slamming it back on the table. I'm not sure if I was sleep deprived. I wasn't sure if it was a sleep deprivation, the heat, the beers, or all the above. But as soon as he said that, I had a flash of anger and pictured myself jumping across the table and wrapping my hands around his throat. Well, now is a chance, I guess. I passed her to you guys. He ordered us more beers and a round of shots. She was stalking me. I had just learned of her for a few weeks ago. That's what she does. She stalks the person and the people who have just learned about her. The drinks were delivered. He took a shot and slid mine to me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We took the shots. All you have to do is tell someone else a story, and this will all go away. She will move on to whomever you tell it to. You son of a bitch. I grabbed his shirt and gave him a solid hook across the table. He didn't even try to fight back. How could you do that to us? To Mika? Your girlfriend? I threw him back into his seat. I was drunk. I didn't want any of this to happen. You guys made me tell it to you. He tried to justify his actions. I'm sorry, Joey. I truly am. But this is your issue now. It took all I had to not to beat him into the ground, but I got up and went to tell Emily and Mika the whole story. When I did, they immediately believed me. So we decided we need to tell someone and fast. have you ever heard of the story of Isabel Jesselwood? You should really stay away from the haunted mansion. Wow. Clever. That's interesting. Honestly, I've never been to Disney World, nor do I ever want to, but I have read like some really creepy shit about like the haunted mansion or about some other shit having to do with the rides there. I've heard that a lot of it's like really haunted and like really creepy. So thank God that I am not rich enough to ever go to Disney World or Disneyland, because no thank you. I've read all the creepypastas, so I know what shit goes on deep down inside. Oh boy. But yeah. A nice little short kind of thing. I just thought this would be the first one to do, because this can only handle 30 minutes of recording, so we're gonna have to see where it goes with that. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed, and everything's down in the description. I love you guys, and I will see you guys later.